Oh, it's not. Oh, we gotta slide it over. Just kidding, you can't see that, only I can. There we go. All right, I'm Jennifer Mroczek, and I teach in the Dominican Republic in a town called Hardabacoa. And tonight I'm just going to share a little bit with you about how I've seen the Lord at work and, just what's been going on there this past season. But before I start, I'm going to go ahead and pray for us. Dear God, I just thank you for this church. I thank you for the opportunity to share this evening. I just pray, Lord, that the stories that you would like me to share and just the work that you have done that you would like me to share, that those are the things that will come out and will come to mind. I just thank you for this evening, and we give this time to you. Amen. All right. Oh, yay, the clicker is working. So here's just a fun picture of a waterfall that we have just outside my town. So I teach at a school called Doulos Discovery School. And what is Doulos? Doulos is a bilingual Christian school that serves students of mixed economic groups. So both like kids who come from wealthier families and then kids who come from like lower economic families. So Doulos' mission is to educate and equip servant leaders through Christian discipleship and expeditionary learning to impact the Dominican Republic. So Doulos does not seek to just come in and correct or fix a temporary problem, but really just to educate and equip the people who are there to then bring change and to fix real world problems in their community. Why Doulos? So why is there a school like Doulos in the Dominican Republic? So the founders of Doulos, Chad and Krista Wallace, were in the Dominican Republic doing some work with Young Life. And so this is before Doulos even started. And they noticed that the people who attended Christian schools were wealthy. And if you weren't wealthy, there weren't really a lot of scholarships offered. And so that kind of just meant that you went to public school. And in public school, the education level just isn't as high. There's just larger class sizes, so things are more difficult for the teacher to manage. The teacher doesn't necessarily have personal relationships with her students or their students. And then they just don't have as good of relationships with families, and the quality is just not as great. And so Chad and Krista Wallace wanted to change this, so they created a school called Doulos. But they didn't just want a school for students who were from these lower economic families, because they saw that there were a lot of people in the Dominican Republic who were either really rich or really poor, and they wanted to try to close this and bring these two groups of people alongside each other. So not only is Doulos it gives this opportunity for people of lower economic status to have a good quality education, but it also gives these higher economic students as well this opportunity to grow alongside people that are so different from them, and to realize that together we can solve these problems, and together we can work, and just to realize all of the gifts and talents that we as believers and followers of Christ all have, regardless of where we come from. So last semester, or I guess not, my mind always works in semesters, but then I remember that the rest of the world, that's not how it really works. So in December, I was here, and I shared some prayer requests with you. And you may have remembered, if you were here at that service, that I asked you to pray for my new assistant. So I had a really good assistant in the fall, our first semester, and then he had to leave, which is pretty unusual. Assistants stay with their class for the whole year. So it was kind of a big change that we were having to switch assistants. But our new assistant was, this is not, I thought there was a light on here. Oh, there we go, Isabella. So Isabella graduated from Doulos a few years ago and knows really good, or speaks really good English, because she graduated from Doulos. Her family works with Youth with a Mission, and So yeah, she's just very familiar with ministry and English and has just been such like a good addition to our class. I had also asked for you guys to pray that I would like make friends with local people. Well, Isabella has also like met that need as well. She's been, a great friend, and we had some challenging situations this semester, and she was just a great help in that. So I actually talked to her last night because I was like, hey, I'm sharing at my church, and as like a graduate of Doulos, what are some things that like kind of set you apart from maybe like other students who went to other schools, or like what were some benefits of going to Doulos? Like what is the difference of Doulos as a graduate? And she said that like it's been a really cool experience for her to like also see the staff side as well, not only the student side, because like as a student, like she realized that like she spoke really good English compared to like the rest of the town that didn't really necessarily have English classes, which then like that opened up like different doors with her. Like I mentioned, her family worked at this other ministry, so they worked with a lot of American teams, so she was able to like communicate with them well and translate with them, and she's traveled like all over the world. Like she's traveled way more than I have to all these different countries, like with this ministry, like as a translator and just different things because of like the gift of English that she has been given. And it's just opened up a lot of relational opportunities for her and just ways for her to connect with other people and to share the gospel with people that she would never have been able to otherwise if she had only spoken one language. And she also is learning Japanese because she feels led to like go over to Japan as well. So she's really cool. But she was saying that as a staff, she has noticed like how much prayer goes into students that she didn't necessarily notice herself as a student. And it's just been this cool realization of like, oh, like teachers are very intentional and they like invest a lot. She said that when she was a student, she knew that she could go to teachers whenever to like ask for their advice or their wise counsel if she like needed a prayer request. And even as a graduate now, because there were a few years between when she graduated and like when she started working at Doulos, and she said like I knew that like I could have even messaged a teacher and asked for prayer and they would have loved to pray for me. So yeah, I think Doulos really is cool in the sense of like just the investment that Doulos teachers make like in students, and really all staff. It's just not the teachers, it's the nurse, the athletic director, even like our kitchen staff. Like they're very relational and friendly with our students. Okay, so the foundation or like the core of Doulos is to like grow students' relationship with the Lord, and then for that to also bleed into like their families and their communities. And there's a few different like logistical things, I guess you could say, that we have structured throughout our year and our school system that kind of like aid in this. And one of these things is service week. So during service week, our students go out and serve in the community. And this year, we wanted to partner with like ministries that were already happening instead of just like picking up trash along the river or whatever. So my students were paired up with their older buddies. So at Doulos, I might have mentioned this before, but all students have a buddy class. So 3rd grade is always paired up with 9th grade. And then when they go to 4th, their buddies will be in 10th. So like they move with those kids like the whole way. And that's just a great way for them to like have some mentorship and to like, have somebody to look up to. So we were paired up with our buddy class to go on this service day project. And I was like a little bit nervous ahead of time just because like we've had some challenges with this buddy class, like the whole working together thing throughout the year. Like 9th graders are still learning to like how to be responsible, and they sometimes find kids annoying, and sometimes 3rd graders can be annoying. And so it was like a challenge at times. So I was like, how is this service day going to work when we go off campus and they have tools and like pickaxes and all this stuff, and it's hot and like nobody wants to work? Like, how is this going to work? So I like prayed a lot about it because I was really stressed about it. And it was really cool to see how the Lord just like used this sort of as like a redemptive experience for me, because it went really well. Like the older buddies were really responsible, they were kind, they like had good relationships. There was like one girl and her younger buddy who like didn't really get along, and they like got along really well during service day. So it was just really encouraging. And it's also just a good opportunity for our kids like to serve their community. Here they were at an orphanage and they were like building bleachers, like cement bleachers. So they were like digging. Some of them were clearing up trash from like the field area and stuff. But yeah, it was fun to see them at work. So another one of these things that is kind of built in to like facilitate spiritual formation at Doulos is small group. So every Wednesday we have chapel. And so we have a chaplain, he gives a message, we do some worship music, and then the kids all break up into their small groups where they discuss like the message and like some prayer requests. And so my group was always like the third grade girls, and then the third grade boys like went off with another staff member. And so I was able to have the girls over to my house like twice throughout the year, once at Christmas break and once at spring break, just to like kind of get together, to do something fun. And so over spring break, we had a pancake and pajama party. And it was just really encouraging because I gave out all these invitations, and I expected like maybe half of the girls to show up. No, they all showed up at my house. And so it was like kind of wild because I had like 10 8-year-old girls like in my living room while trying to like bake, but it was also really fun. And my assistant came along, she's right there. She came along and like helped out. And it's also like, I felt like that event was really cool too, because not only did the girls want to come, but like their parents like trusted me enough to like bring them to my house. Like they all like drove up on their motos or their cars or whatever, and they like walked up 4 flights of stairs, and like their parents like trust me and they trust Doulos, and they see the value of their students doing extracurricular things like this. And they just care about their students' spiritual growth as well. So this was like a really fun little thing that I got to do with them. So another ministry that I'm involved with is Young Life. Who's heard of Young Life before? Okay, yeah. So it's sort of like a youth group for like unchurched kids. So like their goal is to go into like, to not meet like at a church, but rather somebody's house or some sort of like non-religious affiliated place, and then to like build relationships through funny games or like skits or songs or whatever. And then they also share like a little message that is like very intentional and very gospel based, just with the intention of like reaching these kids who might not step foot in a church otherwise. So Young Life has a few different clubs in the DR, and one of them meets at a boarding school called Caribbean Mountain Academy. And Caribbean Mountain Academy is a boarding school for like youth who like maybe have a difficult time getting along with their parents, or are just like in a bad circle of friends. And so their parents may like try to pull them out of that and like put them into like this boarding school in hopes of like rebuilding that relationship with their child, and just like receiving some family counseling, personal counseling for the child, and then also like to catch up on school. And all these kids are like late middle school, high school aged. So we also started a Young Life Club there about 3 years ago, and I've had the opportunity to be a part of that. And yeah, so here's just a photo of our end of the year bonfire. It was really cool this year to see Young Life just grow because students had the opportunity to go to camp there this fall. So every fall they have like a Young Life camp, and normally the CMA students don't go just because like there's more liability flexibility, just like with the type of program that they're in. But this year, like, they pulled some strings and like went through the effort to bring these students to the camp. And it was just really cool to see them like interacting with other students from town. But then also, as a part of Young Life Camp, they like gave talks, and then we had like what we called cabin time afterwards, where we all broke up into groups and like just asked like really real questions and had like really good conversation about those like gospel messages. And that was really cool too, because a lot of these students, like, they just didn't really maybe have a space that they felt was a space that they felt was safe to like share in that way, or to share about their faith, or to be real in that way. And so camp was a good time for that. And then throughout the year, we continued to have like club, and each club has like that talk or like that gospel message at the end. And then we broke up into small groups. And that's not something we did last year, but after camp we were like, this seems like a good thing. We're gonna keep the momentum, we're gonna do it. So we broke them up into small groups, and me and like our Young Life area director, Sarah, Beth, she and I met with the girls. So none of us are necessarily like CMA staff. And so that was really good too, because I think the girls just felt like it was a little bit different, it wasn't the same, and we just had some really good conversation. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing what will happen this year with that and with students going to camp. Yeah, so now I just have some other fun pictures for you. So if you've ever heard of Encanto, I'm dressed up with a few other people here as characters from that movie. It's like a new Disney kids movie. But we had dress-up days at the end of the school year, like just for fun, and one of them was character day. So we dressed up as Encanto characters. Okay, so about partway through like the year, I noticed my students were kind of in a rut, and like they were just starting to be kind of like unkind with one another and not as patient. And like, I know their hearts, and like, I know that they have really sweet hearts. And so I was like, y'all, we need to like bring this back in and like refocus. And so we started doing this thing every day, because like the words that you say are important, like to yourself and to one another. And so we started reciting this every morning because of who God is. You are loved, you are wise, you are important, you are valued, you are strong, you are brave, and you are wanted in this classroom. So they were supposed to walk around and point to like one person and like say this in their eyes, because I was like, if they're saying this to each other, like they are not only like, yeah, like just reminding themselves that they are surrounded by important people who are loved by God, but they're also like reminding each other that they are important and loved by God. So this was just a cool thing that I saw sort of transform our class throughout the semester. And there was one time a girl came up to me and she was like, so-and-so is saying that I'm stupid. And I was like, well, what did we say this morning? And she goes, well, I am loved, and I am wise, and I'm important. And I was like, yes, that is true. You are those things because of who God is. So we get a lot of rainbows down in the DR, and here is one of them. But to me, like rainbows are always just a symbol and reminder of God's promises and his faithfulness. And there were just a lot of like really cool stories that I just like, yeah, just cool stories that totally had the Lord's hand like printed all over them. So I thought I would share a few of those with you all. So, as I had mentioned before, my assistant said that like one thing that she noticed about Doulos teachers was that like they really pray for their students. And maybe I already said this in my presentation, but like partway throughout my year, I was like kind of discouraged because I noticed that my students were like significantly under third grade level because of the pandemic and how like much time they had off. And so I was pretty discouraged and I wasn't feeling adequate or capable enough. And so I was like, Lord, like if I cannot get these kids up to fourth grade reading level, by the end of this school year, maybe I just need to pray for them really intentionally, and if they like aren't able to read as a fourth grader, then at least they've had somebody like praying for them intentionally this entire school year, and maybe that's what they need even more than like being able to read at level. And so I wrote down their names, and I divided them by the day, and I like prayed for each student and these specific requests like each day. And at conferences, I would ask parents like if there were any specific requests that I could add into the like my prayers already, just to once again like communicate to parents that like we're there as teachers to like partner with them and to like see growth in their kids. So specifically before we like got together for this small group to do this little get together thing, I was praying for one of these girls, and we started out the year, and this specific girl was like just very quiet, like pretty low in English, and the other students noticed, and they would be like, she doesn't talk, she doesn't play with us, she's very quiet. And we would always encourage them like, yeah, like be her friend, be friendly, whatever. And so my prayer for her was just that she would like feel like she belonged and to like feel like she was a part of things. And I was like specifically praying for that the day of this small group. And so she like comes in, and I bring her into the kitchen, and I like have her do this little job so that way she like feels like she has like a purpose for that time. And then this other girl comes in and notices that she had like cut all these Hershey Kiss pieces or whatever, and she was like, how did you do that? And she was like, I cut them. And she was like, no way, you didn't do that by yourself, that's so cool. And I was like, hey, show her how you did it. And so she was there like teaching her how to cut all these little pieces, and it was just so sweet too, because I was like, Lord, like this is the moment I prayed for, that this girl would like feel confident and like know that she is wanted and loved by the people around her. And so there they are cutting together, and it just made me really happy. And then as the school year went on, this girl like started becoming really good friends with this other girl, and it was just really cool to like see how the Lord had answered that prayer of her like coming together and like having a friend. And also just to add to that, at the end of the school year, I was looking through like my prayer list and just like the things that I've been praying for, and it was just really cool to see like how the Lord showed up and like helped these students to grow, and their families to grow, and just all of the growth that had happened throughout that school year. So another little promise thing, or I guess a little nugget of God's faithfulness. So we had one student who was like specifically challenging, had a really hard time with some like personal family stuff like in January, and just like was difficult to manage at times. But he loves worship music. And so one morning, or one time, he was like, Miss Mroczek, can we sing Reckless Love? Because we had been singing that at chapel. And I was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. So I like put on the song, and we're like singing it. And then like we all start coming up like with motions together, and I'm like leading them. And it was just like the sweetest moment. And it was just really sweet too, because like so often those songs, they not only like help the students get into like a good rhythm, because we start each morning like with a worship song, but they also like give me a reminder, like when I'm singing like deep inside my soul, I know that you are in control. It's like, okay, God, like I know that like my assistant is about to change, or like these kids aren't listening, but like deep inside my soul, I know that you are in control. And some of the lyrics of this Reckless Love song are like, there's no like mountain you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, like coming after me. And it's just this song about like how God is so relentless in his love for his people that he'll even like leave the 99 to like go after the lost one. So I just thought it was like really ironic and funny / sweet of the Lord to like have this student who like was the one who went off that like we had to leave the class for to like lead our class in this song. And he like took a little break, almost like a, I don't know, suspension, not suspension, like a break from our class, and then for like 2 weeks, and then came back. And all the kids were really excited to have him back. And they were like, let him pick the song. And I was like, okay. So he was like, let's do Reckless Love. And I was like, yep, we need this reminder. Like, the Lord is just so faithful. And that song was a really good reminder of his faithfulness. Another really fun moment. So if you read my last newsletter, I mentioned that I got COVID at the end of the school year and wasn't able to be there, which like was really sad for me because I just really grew to love these students, and we like had our songs that we sang all the time, like our little cheers that we said, and we weren't able to like do any of those like for the last time. And there was this one song that was like a pretty big theme song of our class called This Is Love, and it was like the first song that we learned, and so we like sang it all the time, and then like the whole school learned it, and then the whole school sang it all the time. And like I wasn't able to do that with them one last time and was really sad. But after the school year got out, my roommate got married, and so I was at her wedding, and one of my students, Jamie right there, he was also at the wedding. And as everybody's like getting ready to leave and like they're closing up stuff, and I'm like walking to like go clean some stuff up, I noticed that Jamie is next to the DJ requesting him to play This Is Love. And so I was like, hey, like let's do this together. So here we are, and like we led everybody who was left, because like most of the people at the wedding were like people who worked at our school. So we all danced to like This Is Love together. And I was like, Lord, like you gave me this moment to like help me close out the year, because I was like in my room alone when I had COVID, and I was like, this is like so sad. And I was like, Lord, like why is this happening? But it was just really sweet to have this one last moment. Some other fun things that happened this year. My older sister, Amy, came down to visit, and it was just really cool to show her all around the DR. Yeah, and then I also, I guess that picture is hidden someplace else. But another cool thing about this year is we started off, like all the students, their desks had to be like 1.5 meters apart. They all had to wear masks. We like had quite a few protocol for COVID. And then we ended, and like we didn't have masks anymore. Students like were able to have desks together, so we like put them in rows. And it was just really cool to like see things kind of coming back together again, and just like a little sense of normalcy. So those big changes were around like March. The country like declared that nobody had to wear masks anymore. After like even requiring people to have vaccines to enter stores, they like just lifted all of those restrictions overnight. So that was a little, yeah. So some other fun family visitors that I had this year were my cousin and her husband and their 2 girls. They were my first family visitors that I've had after 3.5 years. So that was really sweet and fun and just cool to like bring them into that part of my life. And like they joked around like, Jennifer, like it's fun to see you as an adult, because when I'm here, like I don't work here, like I'm borrowing a car here, like I am just somebody passing through when I'm here for a few short weeks. But like there I like have a job, and I like had to translate everything for them and like help them. And so then they felt like the kids and I was like the adult, whereas like when I'm here it's always vice versa, and I'm like, will you help me? So that was just a really fun like role reverse change that I got to experience. Another fun thing this semester, on February 27th is Dominican Independence Day, and it's like a really big deal. And our whole school like does this Independence Day program like the day before, because they had the actual holiday off. And so my class, they did like a little poem that they recited in Spanish, and they were all people of like different work places. So like he was a waiter or like a chef or whatever. Another really big cultural thing is like dances. So like the salsa, bachata, merengue. So all of the students like were part of either like a drama or singing a song or like doing one of those dances. And then up here, I had the chance to walk in our town's parade. And so, yeah, it was really fun. We were told that there was going to be this parade. And so like we show up and like all the other schools like had people or had their students like in just like really pristine uniforms, and like they had their like majorette baton routines, and then we're just there like with some parents and like some of our teachers, and we're just wearing like DR t-shirts or like doulas t-shirts. So we're already like this like ragtag muffin group walking through town like with all these other schools. But then we get to like the town center, and somebody is like, okay, when you get to the town center, you're going to do your dance. And we were like, we don't have one of those. So they let us just walk through. But it was our first time being a part of this parade, or being invited to. So we'll see what happens next year. Maybe they'll do things differently. But it was just a fun thing to be a part of. Oh, and it looks like this is my last slide. So I forgot to like type up a little like prayer request slide. But just things that you can be praying about this semester. My health, just that it will continue to be good, that I won't get sick like I did a lot this past semester, but also just continued opportunities to share the gospel and to share Christ with my students. I've noticed that like more than like me putting on a show or like prepping to like do some big thing, it's like even more important for me to just have a really healthy relationship with the Lord, and then my service and ministry like comes out of that. And so just continued prayers for that strong relationship and just opportunities. So just thank you for being supportive, for reading my newsletters, for praying, for just the donation that the church gives. It's really helpful. I am fully funded, which is really great, but I'm always welcoming like one-time donations just for like when the four-wheeler breaks down or plane tickets or that sort of thing. So if you feel led to give, we can talk about that after the service. But now is question time. So if you have any questions, I am here to answer. Does anybody? Yes.
Just curious, one of the early slides you were with your assistant, and you had cups in your hands. The outside of the cup was one color, the inside looked greenish. Was that what you were drinking, or was that the cup design? And if so, what was in that cup?
Yeah.
Just don't do dishes.
Yeah, no, but yeah. No. So it's not a traditional Dominican drink, but we were having matcha tea, which I think it's Japanese. It's just like this green, thick tea. So that's what that was. What? Oh, yeah, so that's what we were drinking. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so 4 years. So this upcoming school year will be my 5th. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, vaccines are available. Like the U.S. had them before the Dominican Republic did, but eventually we also got like Moderna and like the more familiar ones that were like used here as well. Yeah, I mean like we do have pretty good hospitals, and they were filled just like hospitals here. But yeah. Any more? Yes. Yeah, I can go back if you want to write that down. Harabacoa, but it starts with a J. So in English, it would be Jarabacoa or Jarabacoa. Anybody else? All right. you like to come?
So, I just want to take a minute to thank Jennifer for coming. We appreciate it. And I'd like for us to close with a word of prayer for her because she told me that she's heading out Wednesday. Is that right? Okay. So don't worry, I wasn't going to quiz you on spelling the name of that. I'll do that later. But I want us to close with a word of prayer and she's heading out Wednesday. We'd like to pray for you before you leave. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to join me. I'm going to pray, and I want you to pray as well as the Lord may lead you. But we're going to pray for her before she leaves. Keep her safe. That she'll continue to be fruitful, and we'll see you again next time. Right? All right. Well, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day, this beautiful Lord's Day that you've given us, Lord, and we thank you for the opportunity to come back again this evening. Lord, we thank you for Jennifer. Lord, we thank you for her willingness to come and to share the work that she has been doing, Lord, and ultimately, of course, as she mentioned as she was speaking, ultimately it's all done for your glory and for your purposes, Lord. And Lord, we know that she is out bearing fruit for your glory. And so, Lord, we want to pray for her safety first, Lord, as she heads out this week on Wednesday. Lord, I pray that you would keep her safe, that you would protect her from all evil. Lord, we know that the devil would want to try to keep her from being able to continue to do the things that she does, whether that be through sickness or whatever the case is. So, Lord, we pray a special prayer for her health this year, that you would keep her well, Lord. And Lord, if she does encounter any illness, Lord, we do pray that she would have a quick and swift recovery. Lord, we know that you're the great healer, and we lean on you for that. Father, we also pray that she'll continue to bear fruit, as I said, through the sharing of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, Lord. And I pray for these children that she interacts with, Lord, that ultimately, Lord, her ministry will be seen as she draws closer to you, and as she draws closer to you, Lord, you will give her the